The security guard's hand closed on my elbow, a silent order from Victoria hanging heavy in the air. "Get out," she'd hissed, her voice dripping with disdain. "You're useless to my company." Useless? 7 years. 7 years I'd poured into Meridian Capital, building the very backbone of their $200 million trading empire. They wanted me out. They had no idea what they were actually kicking to the curb. 7 years. That's how long I'd spent making their systems bulletproof. Before me, Meridian was a mess. They were hemorrhaging clients, their systems crashing every other week. I was the guy they called in 2018 to fix it, to build something from the ground up, something that wouldn't just keep them afloat, but make them a major player. I built Atlas. Every line of code, every failsafe, every backup protocol. It was the spine of their entire operation. Then, 8 months ago, Victoria arrived. Ex-Goldman Sachs shark, a new CEO installed to pivot and disrupt, she used those buzzwords every third sentence. And suddenly, I was disposable tech support, an old relic making way for her MIT grads. The town hall meeting was on a Tuesday. Victoria had rented out the main conference space, giant screens, professional lighting, catered lunch. I stood in the back, coffee in hand, watching the show. Victoria took the stage first, perfectly poised in a $4,000 suit. Mine cost $250 3 years ago at Burlington Coat Factory. She tapped her color-coded notes. Today marks a transformational moment for Meridian Capital. We're unveiling the next generation of our trading infrastructure. Then Miles and Logan, two of Victoria's new hires, took the stage, wireless mics in hand, looking like they were about to announce the iPhone 47. Miles, my former apprentice. The kid I'd trained when he couldn't tell a regression model from his elbow. 2 years I spent teaching him everything, staying late, fixing his code. I'd even covered for him when he almost cost us a major client by miscalculating leverage ratios on a $40 million position. Now he stood up there like I didn't even exist. Today, Miles said, his voice smooth and practiced, we're unveiling the future of Meridian Capital. A system that's faster, leaner, and built for the next generation of trading. Faster, leaner. The same empty buzzwords every tech bro uses when they don't understand engineering. They pulled up a demo. Sleek interface, animations that probably took weeks to design. But underneath all the polish, I recognized the architecture instantly. It was Atlas. Just Atlas with a new skin. The routing logic? Mine. The risk calculations? Mine. The backup protocols? Still mine. They'd literally just redesigned the interface and called it innovation. Logan stepped forward, clicking to the next slide. One of the key improvements is what we call dynamic risk allocation across multi-threaded execution layers. I raised my hand. Because dynamic risk allocation across multi-threaded execution layers wasn't a real thing. He was describing parallel processing, a basic concept, but using completely fabricated terminology. Miles saw me, his eyes locking on my raised hand. He forced a smile. Daniel, since you're transitioning to a consulting role, let's keep the floor focused on current architecture. A few heads turned, maybe 8 or 9 people out of 100. That's not a real term, I said, my voice calm, clear. You're describing parallel processing with made-up jargon. And the routing signature on that demo is identical to Atlas's core framework, which I built in 2018. So, either credit the actual work or stop presenting it as new. The room went quiet. That toxic corporate quiet where everyone pretends they didn't just hear something awkward. Victoria stood up from her front row seat, measured, controlled. Daniel, this presentation is about our strategic vision. If you have technical concerns, we can schedule a separate review. I don't have concerns, I said. I have facts. That system isn't new. It's mine. Her smile flattened. Let's take this offline. I set my coffee down on the nearest table and walked out. Didn't slam the door. Stood in the hallway by that terrible Keurig machine that made mediocre coffee, but was better than going back in there. I pulled out my phone, checked Slack. My title in the company directory had been changed. No longer lead quantitative developer, now just consultant systems. Changed mid-meeting. While I was still in the room. I checked my calendar. Access revoked for security review. The next architecture meeting invite didn't include me anymore. My phone buzzed. Email from HR, subject line, meeting request, tomorrow, 9:45 a.m. I knew exactly what was coming. Wednesday morning, 9:47 a.m. I walked into the executive boardroom carrying nothing but my phone and 7 years' worth of exhaustion. The trap was already sprung. 2 security guards stood inside the room. One by the door, arms crossed, the other behind my usual chair, the one I wouldn't be sitting in. The boardroom had that sterile corporate smell. Victoria sat at the head of the polished table like she owned the oxygen. The whole C-suite was there. VP of Operations scrolling through his phone. CFO pretending to review spreadsheets. Head of Trading staring at the wall. And Miles, sitting in his pressed Oxford shirt, avoiding eye contact like his life depended on it. Daniel, Victoria said, fingers steepled in that way that makes you want to break furniture. You're done here. Don't make this difficult. No preamble. No small talk. Just execution. I stood there, didn't sit, didn't speak. As of this moment, your position at Meridian Capital is terminated. Effective immediately. She tapped her color-coded notes. Miles will handle the transition. He already has access. Miles's throat moved, a swallow, but he kept his eyes on the table. Nobody else moved. Nobody spoke. The VP kept clicking his pen. That nervous tick people have when they're watching someone else get executed. The CFO didn't even look up from his spreadsheet. The head of trading closed his laptop slowly, like the click might draw attention. Not one person in that room had the spine to acknowledge what was happening. Victoria slid an envelope across the table like it was a napkin. Be grateful we didn't cut you sooner. The HR rep sitting to her left had a form on a clipboard, already filled out. Victoria let that word hang in the air for 3 seconds. You've been resistant and disruptive for months, Daniel. This isn't personal. It's what's best for the firm. She said it like she was reading it into a deposition, making it official, making it my fault. She glanced at the guard by the door. Get out. You're useless to my company. The room sat in that suffocating silence, waiting for me to grovel, or ask why, or make it easier for them to feel okay about what they were doing. I looked at Miles, his jaw tightened, but he still wouldn't meet my eyes. Then I looked back at Victoria, that smug little smile on her face like she'd just won poker night with someone else's money. Lupin Legal, I said, voice flat, cold. 8 minutes. The smile flickered. Confusion crossed her face. Was I serious? Her brain was working overtime trying to categorize it. Meaningless threat. Sour grapes. But something in my tone made her stop. Victoria's expression hardened. Escort him out now. The security guard behind me shifted, moved closer. I stood still. Victoria's voice went colder. If he refuses, remove him. The guard's hand closed on my elbow. I stepped away. Smooth, controlled, not aggressive, just clear. Everyone in that room suddenly found something fascinating in their paperwork. The VP studied his phone. The CFO adjusted his spreadsheet. Miles stared at his hands. I turned and walked out. Didn't slam the door. Didn't give them the satisfaction. The door clicked shut behind me. My chair still empty. The envelope still sitting there, untouched. The hallway was empty. Fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. Corporate carpet that looked depressing. When the doors opened to the lobby, I pulled out my phone and checked Atlas's admin console. Status: license revocation initiated. Limited mode. 0 hours, 8 minutes. The clock had already started, but not because of me. By the time I reached my car in the underground parking garage, the countdown was at 5 minutes. I sat in the driver's seat, didn't start the engine, just watched the numbers tick down on my phone. Somewhere up on the 12th floor, the first error alerts were hitting their screens. Small things. An order that wouldn't execute. A risk calculation that hung. A portfolio that loaded incomplete data. I imagined Victoria in that boardroom, already moving on to the next agenda item, congratulating herself on cutting costs, making the tough decisions that CEOs get bonuses for. Revocation timer complete. Restricted mode initiated. Here's what Victoria didn't know. I'd seen this coming 4 months ago. The subtle freeze-out, the excluded emails, the budget meetings I suddenly wasn't invited to. The way they started routing critical decisions around me like I was radioactive. I'd been tracking every dollar for months because of Mom's medical bills. But I'd prepared. Atlas didn't live on Meridian servers. Never had. Back in 2018, when I was brought in, building something mission-critical on their imploding foundation would have been idiotic. So I built Atlas as hosted infrastructure through my consulting LLC. Managed service build, monthly under systems hosting / market data. Atlas wasn't hidden. It was filed under the corporate junk drawer. AP paid my LLC invoice every month. Nobody reads line items under $50,000. It was on their network diagram as external / risk vendor. Vendor review got waived during the 2018 fire drill, and turnover buried it. Once something is labeled vendor, nobody touches it unless it breaks badly. Meridian was the kind of place that treated process like optional DLC. They'd been running every trade, every risk calculation, every client portfolio through my system for 7 years. They just never understood they didn't own it. And Atlas had fail-closed protocols I'd coded 3 months ago when I first smelled blood. If license contacts changed or payment went disputed without notice, Atlas would enter limited mode. Not instant contractual fail closed, but degraded service pending authorization review. No execution without valid license. No exceptions. By the time they realized something was catastrophically wrong, I'd be gone. I started the engine and drove out without looking back. By 2:30 p.m., I was home. Middle of a workday. Jessica was on the couch with her laptop. Corporate attorney at some mid-tier firm downtown. We'd been together 2 years. Smart, ambitious, the kind of person who color-coded her calendar and planned everything 6 months ahead. She looked up when I walked in, checked her watch. "Why are you home?" "They fired me." She blinked. Set her laptop aside. "What? This morning?" Walked into a boardroom. Security already inside. CEO terminated me effective immediately. Said I was useless to the company. Security walked me out. Miles is taking over everything I built. Jessica sat forward. "Daniel, that's 7 years gone." She stared at me. I watched her face cycle through reactions. Shock. Concern. Then calculation. "Did they give you severance?" she asked. "That's your first question?" "Did they?" "They offered a package." I didn't look at it. Her jaw tightened. "You didn't look at it?" I had 8 minutes before their entire trading system went into restricted mode. "What are you talking about?" "Atlas. The platform I built. They don't own it. I just revoked their license." Jessica stood up. "Daniel, that sounds like you're making this worse." If they fired you, you take the severance and move on. I took back what's mine. That's not how this works. She picked up her bag. I'm up for partner review in 6 months. If you're about to be in some legal battle, are you serious right now? I'm being realistic. This is messy. I just got fired. Humiliated. And you're worried about how it looks for you? She started putting her laptop away. I need some space. Space? You can't be associated with this? Get out. She stopped. What? Get out now. Don't talk to me like you're worried about your career review while I just told you I got publicly humiliated. Get out. Her face went cold. I can't be tied to this. It reflects on me. She grabbed her coat. Good luck explaining this disaster to your mother. The door slammed. I stood there for a long moment, then sat down and opened Atlas's admin console on my laptop. Activity log showed a spike. 8:47 p.m. HR system access. Legal folder ping. Operations flag. Then I saw it. External alert. Priority flag from Jessica at lawfirm.com. Subject line, Urgent Security Risk Assessment Re, Daniel CC Meridian HR, Meridian Legal Operations. I clicked through to the forwarded notification. Atlas had intercepted the routing metadata when their systems pinged external counsel databases. The message preview was enough. Terminated today but made threats regarding system access. Said he can shut you down. Recommend you terminate access immediately and treat him as a threat to operational security. She'd put it in writing. CC'd legal, corporate email, professional letterhead. Jessica had tipped them off before she even left my building. My phone buzzed. Atlas notification. Security escalation. 8:52 p.m. trigger, external counsel advisory flagged account as active threat access. Status, already terminated. HR had already killed my credentials that morning as part of the firing, but Jessica's email upgraded me from terminated employee to security threat in their system. Different label, same dead access. Atlas's fail closed had already activated hours ago. Authorized contacts changed without proper notice per the service agreement. Automatic. Exactly as designed. Jessica didn't pull the trigger. She just signed her name to the bullet. I sat there staring at the screen. Then I pulled up my laptop and opened Atlas's admin console. My lawyer, the one who'd set up my LLC, had told me 2 things: don't touch production and document everything. I typed one command. Enable audit logging target, all admin access mode, litigation. Hold, Atlas. Atlas blinked back. Full audit logging enabled. All access attempts recorded. Retention, indefinite. If they touched Atlas again, I'd have receipts. And if Jessica's email surfaced in Discovery, she'd have receipts, too. 5 minutes later, my phone rang. Mom's number. I almost didn't answer because answering meant explaining, and explaining meant she'd panic. Panic meant her blood pressure, and blood pressure meant the ER. Mom had been sick for 3 years. Autoimmune disorder that required expensive maintenance drugs and quarterly specialist visits. I'd been covering it quietly. She thought her insurance handled everything. She didn't need to know I was juggling $3,200 a month in medical bills on top of everything else. I let it go to voicemail. Then my phone buzzed. Text from Mom. Someone from your company just called. Said you were let go and there were concerns about your behavior. Are you okay? Why didn't you tell me? I stared at the message. Meridian had called my mother. Not Jessica. Meridian's HR. Following up on Jessica's security risk flag by reaching out to my emergency contact on file. They'd weaponized my one vulnerability. My phone rang again. Mom's number. I answered. Daniel, honey, someone from HR said, Mom, I'm fine. She said they had to let you go. That there were security concerns. That you made threats. Mom, that's not what happened. They fired me because I wouldn't hand over work I built. Now they're covering themselves. Covering themselves? Daniel, what about, she paused. I could hear the strain in her voice. What about money? Your apartment? My appointments? Mom, I have savings. I have a severance package. I'm fine. Are you sure? Because if you're in trouble, Mom, do not cancel any appointments. The specialist visit is tied to your drug refill. I'm handling this. I have everything under control. But I didn't. Not really. Because Meridian had just weaponized the one thing I'd been trying to protect. And now Mom was scared, which meant her health would spiral, which meant more appointments, medications, money I didn't have. I hung up and sat there in the empty apartment. Then I added one more command to Atlas's audit log. Flag, external contact attempts. Family members note, attempted intimidation via emergency contacts. Retention, permanent. The following Tuesday, Miles tried to restructure Atlas's core routing protocols. Victoria's idea, get rid of the legacy dependencies and rebuild it under their direct control. He spent 4 hours trying to reverse engineer the authentication sequence, failed every time. Atlas's defenses were two-layered. Every attempt triggered automatic countermeasures that created additional redundancy. By the end of the day, he'd actually made the system more resistant to tampering. I watched it all happen in real time from my apartment, through Atlas's logs. My attorney told me to document everything and not touch a thing. Miles finally gave up around 6 p.m. Sent an email to Victoria with the subject line, need to discuss system architecture complexity. Victoria's reply came back 10 minutes later. Bring in external contractors. Budget approved. And that's when I knew they were desperate. The contractors showed up on Thursday. 3 guys from an incident response firm in Boston. The kind that charges $800 an hour and shows up in black polo shirts with their company logo embroidered on the chest. The lead guy was named Scott. Late 30s, confident. An engineer who'd actually earned his reputation. Scott spent the first hour just mapping Atlas's architecture. I watched through the logs as he traced pathways, identified nodes, documented dependencies. He was methodical, careful. He mapped it like he'd done this before. Around 2 p.m., he found the first anomaly, a routing signature that didn't match Meridian's standard infrastructure. He flagged it for deeper analysis. Then he found the second anomaly, and the third. By 4 p.m., he'd realized Atlas wasn't just unusual. It was separate. An external system integrated so deeply into Meridian's infrastructure that it might as well have been the foundation. He called a meeting with Victoria and Miles. I couldn't see the meeting, but I could see the aftermath in the logs. Scott pulled metadata and build stamps. Then he requested vendor documentation. AP forwarded the invoices. Legal forwarded the old waiver. Domain registration did the rest. My LLC name was on every invoice. The system they'd been calling theirs for 7 years had my author tags on every critical component. I imagined the look on Victoria's face. The realization that the legacy system she'd been trying to replace wasn't Meridian's legacy at all. It was mine. That night, Jessica called. I didn't answer. Let it go to voicemail. I listened to the message later. Daniel, I heard what's happening with Meridian. The legal threats. I need you to know I didn't think they'd actually use my email. I was trying to protect myself, not. Look, Please tell your lawyer not to drag me into this. I can't be part of discovery. Call me. I deleted the voicemail. She wasn't sorry. She was scared her email would surface. Forget her. The next morning, Victoria's assistant sent me a calendar invite. Urgent discussion regarding system protocols. I declined the meeting. Sent back a single-line email, all communication should go through my attorney. Because that's what you do when someone tries to steal your work and then acts surprised when they realize it was never theirs. Victoria responded within an hour. No more fake courtesy. No more corporate polish. Daniel, let's be clear about what's happening here. You will comply with the transition of all systems to Meridian's full control, or we will seek emergency relief TTRO. You have 48 hours to respond. Emergency relief TTRO for software they never owned. I forwarded the email to my lawyer, the one who'd helped me set up the original LLC and licensing agreements. She called me back within 20 minutes. They're desperate. They know they don't own Atlas, so they're trying to scare you into giving it up. And Atlas? Atlas stays where it is. Your intellectual property. They have no legal claim. She drafted our response that afternoon. Short, clinical, devastating. Attached to it, the original blueprints, timestamp documentation, hosting invoices, W-9, the MSA draft from 2018 they never signed, registration records, everything proving I'd built it, owned it, and they'd never formalized terms. The response went out the next morning. My lawyer called me that afternoon. Daniel, Meridian just sent their TTRO motion with supporting exhibits. And Exhibit B is an email from someone named Jessica at a law firm. Dated the day you were fired. Says you made threats about shutting down their systems and recommends immediate credential termination. Silence. Daniel. Did your ex-girlfriend tip them off? Yeah. Well, congratulations. She just made herself a witness and possibly opened herself up to tortious interference claims if we want to go that route. I could hear the grim satisfaction in her voice. What does that mean? It means Jessica put herself in the middle of this in writing, on corporate letterhead. If they try to use her email as evidence of your threats, we'll tear it apart in discovery. She had a personal relationship with you, broke up with you the same day, then immediately contacted your employer with inflammatory claims. That's not a neutral security assessment. That's retaliation. She paused. And Daniel, if they actually file this, we can counter with defamation and interference. She made false statements that damaged you professionally. That's actionable. By early the following week, I heard through a mutual acquaintance that Meridian had brought in outside counsel for the litigation threat. Big firm, expensive, the same firm where Jessica's mentor had just made partner. The same firm where Jessica had been networking for a lateral move. I mentioned it to my lawyer. She laughed. Actually laughed. Oh, this keeps getting better. Let me make a call. She called back an hour later. Conflict check hit hard. Jessica's relationship with you, her email being used as evidence, and her connection to the external firm. They've pulled her off any Meridian-adjacent matters and flagged her for the ethics committee. She's been walled off. What does that mean for her? Partner review paused. Probably dead. Any chance of moving to the big firm? Gone. She's toxic now. Firms don't want associates who create conflicts and liability. A week later, another mutual contact mentioned they'd seen Jessica in a coffee shop looking rough. Heard she got pulled from a major deal last minute. Something about conflicts, and she's not on the partner track email list anymore. I didn't ask for details. Didn't need to. Jessica had tried to protect her image by throwing me under the bus. Instead, she'd created a paper trail that made her a liability. Her firm was doing what firms do, quietly pushing her toward the exit while covering their own behind. No dramatic firing, just the slow death of explore other opportunities and we'll be in touch. The kind of professional exile that doesn't wash off. The following Friday at 3 a.m., Atlas went into full shutdown mode. Miles tried again at 2:47 a.m. Same move, same arrogance. Atlas detected the unauthorized credential injection and immediately escalated containment protocols. The system had been in restricted mode since the first Wednesday, degraded but functional. Miles's stunt pushed it over the edge. Full lockdown. No license, no execution. By 9 a.m., Meridian's trading desk couldn't execute orders properly. Positions queued and never cleared. Portfolio analytics loaded as blank screens. The desk went manual at 9:47 a.m. Risk calculations went stale. Seven-figure exposure sitting unprotected while the market moved against them. By 10:30, clients were calling and the trading floor was in full panic mode. I watched it unfold through Atlas's audit dashboard. Everything recorded for counsel. Victoria called an emergency meeting. Required attendance for all technical staff. I didn't go. Didn't respond to emails. Didn't answer my phone. Sat in my apartment with cold coffee and Atlas's logs. Around 11:15, they brought Scott back in. Emergency rate, $1,200 an hour, maybe higher. Full access. Scott was good. Better than Miles. Better than most engineers I'd worked with. He spent an hour tracing the failure cascade, mapped dependencies, got within 3 steps of Atlas's control layer, then Atlas moved. Access violation detected. External authority rejected. Revoking temporary credentials. Scott's screen went black. Full system logout. Account disabled. Session terminated. Token invalid. Complete security lockout. I actually laughed. First time in weeks. Meridian stopped paying him 15 minutes later. By 2 p.m., the cumulative damage was hitting 7 figures. Failed trades, blown risk limits, client complaints piling up. Victoria must have been losing her mind. My phone buzzed around 3:30. Text message from a number I didn't recognize. We need to talk in person. Name your terms. Victoria. Got my number from HR records. I didn't respond. Another text came through 20 minutes later. We're losing clients, bleeding money. Please just call me back. I turned my phone off. Let her sweat. Monday morning, my lawyer called. Daniel, we're issuing subpoenas for discovery. Meridian's internal communications, HR records, and any third-party correspondence related to your termination. Okay, that includes Jessica. She's compelled to testify since she inserted herself into this. Her email is Exhibit B in their filing, which means she's a material witness now. She's going to love that. She made her choice when she put it in writing. Now she gets to explain it under oath. That night, Jessica showed up at my apartment. Didn't text first, just knocked on the door. I opened it, stood in the doorway, didn't invite her in. Daniel, we need to talk. We really don't. I got a subpoena from your lawyer. And Daniel, I can't testify. It'll destroy my career. The partners are already watching me. If I'm deposed about the email, you should have thought of that before you wrote it. I was protecting myself. You are covering your behind. There's a difference. Her face hardened. What do you want? I'll retract the email. I'll say I was wrong. Too late. It's evidence now. You made yourself part of this. Daniel, please. You called my mother. Or you told Meridian enough that they did. You put my career, my reputation, my mother's health at risk because you were worried about optics. I didn't think. No, you didn't. I stepped back and closed the door. Stood there listening to her footsteps fade down the hallway. Then I went back to my laptop and checked Atlas's logs. Still running, still secure, still mine. The following Monday, Meridian's legal team sent me a formal demand letter. Pages of threats wrapped in lawyer speak. Claims of breach of contract, allegations of service disruption, demands for cessation of all license termination and service unavailability. They wanted me to hand over Atlas's code, full admin access, documentation, everything. And if I didn't comply, they'd pursue maximum legal remedies, including injunction, TTRO, and emergency motion. I forwarded it to my attorney. She called back within an hour. They're desperate. This letter is practically begging. They know they don't own Atlas, so they're trying to scare you into giving it up. What do I do? Nothing. Let them make threats. When they realize they have no leverage, they'll come back with a negotiation offer. And that's when we negotiate damages and fees. I hung up and poured myself a coffee. First one I'd had in weeks. Stood by the window watching the city lights. Traffic moving below. People living their normal lives. By Wednesday, the damage at Meridian had crossed 7 figures, according to a compliance contact who still talked to me. Trading halts, blown positions, client withdrawals. The kind of losses that make board members update their resumes. Victoria tried calling me directly 4 times, left voicemails that started professional and ended desperate. I didn't call back. Earlier that week, Thursday, the board meeting had happened. Emergency session with less than 4 hours' notice. I wasn't there, but I didn't need to be. Atlas was. See, Miles had uploaded a shared audit file to the board's secure portal. Their portal pinged Atlas for logs. That was enough. Victoria stood at the head of the table, visible in the recording, trying to explain why their systems were failing, why contractors couldn't fix it, why the company was hemorrhaging money. Her color-coded notes spread in front of her like a battle plan that was losing. Then came the question that changed everything. A voice from one of the video screens, flat, calm. Who owns Atlas? Victoria blinked. What? The trading system, Atlas? Is it proprietary to Meridian or was it contracted? Because the architecture suggests external development. Victoria shifted. It was built internally years ago. Legacy system maintained by our development team. Someone off-screen. Can you show us the IP assignment? Silence. Then the voice came back. That's not what I was told. The speaker, Marcus, senior partner at a venture capital firm. Early investor who kept Meridian alive in 2019. I met Daniel 3 years ago at an industry conference in Boston, Marcus continued. We discussed vendor risk management and compliance protocols. He sent me his standard service agreement, registration packet, and invoice template afterward. Same architecture Atlas appears to use. Very thorough documentation. He paused. And I remember because the email said something specific, platform operates independently. Client access via license only. Revocation clause standard. Another pause. I still have the email chain and the LLC registration and the original service proposal he sent to your predecessor in 2018. Victoria's face lost all color. Miles went completely still. Someone asked, so, we don't own it? Marcus leaned forward on the video screen. I don't think we ever did. The meeting ended 30 minutes early. No decisions made, no reassurances given, just questions. Expensive, career-ending questions. I watched the recordings later, watched Victoria's face as her world collapsed, watched Miles realize he'd been standing on someone else's foundation. No satisfaction, just cold awareness that the truth surfaced. Friday morning, their board's attorney sent a settlement proposal. $2.4 million for continued Atlas access through year-end, plus formal licensing terms at $180,000 monthly going forward. My lawyer called it a pay-to-stop-bleeding deal. No admission of liability. I countersigned it that afternoon without hesitation. The wire transfer hit my account by close of business. I invoiced the ashes. That night, I got an email from someone I hadn't heard from in 4 years. From Olivia, subject, "Are you available? Daniel, heard about the situation at Meridian. Also heard they never actually owned your work. We're building a new platform at Quantum. Real engineering, real respect, no corporate nonsense. We want you to build the architecture. Your terms, your equity, your team. Interested? Olivia?" I stared at the email for a long time. Quantum. Trading boutique firm, small but profitable, run by people who understood the work. I replied within 10 minutes. Yes, let's talk. By Friday, I had an offer letter. Senior architect, 2% equity, $280,000 base, full autonomy. I signed it that night. Renamed the new system Atlas X, built for engineers, owned by engineers. Meanwhile, Meridian kept spiraling. The SEC thing I heard first from a compliance guy I used to work with, then saw it mentioned in a filing a few weeks later. Their broker had flagged weird order patterns. Compliance logs went messy, and it stopped being an internal problem. Client withdrawals were brutal. At first, it was a couple big clients pulled. Then the industry gossip turned into actual numbers, north of $40 million in 2 weeks. Victoria got quietly removed from all external communications. Miles got reassigned to special projects. Corporate speak for, "We're letting you resign instead of firing you." Their assets under management dropped somewhere around a third, maybe more. Around the same time, I heard Jessica left her law firm. Not fired, just pursuing other opportunities. Translation, they'd made it clear she had no future there. Partner track dead. Major clients reassigned. Big firm lateral move never materialized after the conflict check. She'd tried to insulate herself by burning me. Instead, she'd created a paper trail that made her radioactive. The legal world is small. Word travels. An associate who created conflicts and got subpoenaed in vendor litigation isn't a resume highlight. I heard she ended up at a smaller firm doing insurance defense, making half what she used to. The kind of quiet professional death that doesn't make headlines. Just a slow fade into irrelevance. I didn't feel satisfaction. Didn't feel vindication. Just the cold awareness that actions have consequences. Even when you think you're being smart. 3 weeks after I signed with Quantum, I visited our new office downtown. Modern, clean, windows that opened. From the conference room, I could see Meridian's building in the distance. Glass tower, expensive, sterile. The lights on the executive floor were dark. Parking lot half empty at 10 a.m. The empire I'd built collapsing, and I felt nothing. Just the quiet satisfaction of watching people face consequences. 3 months passed. Quantum grew. We landed 4 major clients. Atlas X performed flawlessly. My team expanded to 6 engineers. Good ones, hungry ones, the kind who cared about the work instead of just collecting checks. Jessica tried reaching out one more time. A text message late at night. "I know you won't respond, but I need you to know I'm sorry. Not for what it cost me. For what I did to you. I was wrong." I read it twice, then I deleted it. Some apologies come too late. Some bridges burned completely. That's not cruelty. That's just reality. Meridian, meanwhile, kept dying in slow motion. They'd hired a new CTO from a failed fintech startup. Tried rebuilding their systems. 3 contractors, 6 months, $2 million in fees. None of it worked. You can't rebuild what you never understood. Their client base shrunk to a third of what it was. Revenue down 60%. Layoffs every other month. Miles left for a position at some boutique firm in Seattle. Took a 30% pay cut. Told everyone it was a strategic move. Logan disappeared entirely. LinkedIn said he was exploring new opportunities. Translation: unemployed. Victoria held on the longest, stubborn, desperate, convinced she could turn it around with the right pivot, the right strategy, the right story. But the board ran out of patience. I heard through the grapevine they'd bought her out, paid her to leave quietly. Just gone. The whole thing felt anticlimactic, like watching structural failure in slow motion, just gravity doing its work. I thought that was the end of it. Move on. Build something new. The settlement terms were brutal. Non-disparagement clause that gagged Victoria and the board. Escrow account for the licensing fees. Quarterly audits to verify compliance. My lawyer had negotiated a clawback provision. If they tried to rebuild Atlas without permission, the whole deal unwound, and I could pursue full damages. The board minutes from that month leaked through a compliance friend. Leadership reshuffle. CFO retired. VP of Operations reassigned. Miles demoted to individual contributor with a performance improvement plan. 3 directors resigned rather than face shareholder questions. Then I got a voicemail late Thursday night. Number I didn't recognize. Almost deleted it without listening. Daniel, it's Victoria. I hit pause, stared at my phone. I know you don't want to hear from me. The way I treated you was wrong. I destroyed everything. The company, people's jobs, my career. I was arrogant and stupid. You deserved better. I know you won't respond, but I needed you to know. I listened to it once, then blocked the number. What's the one thing you would have done differently if you were me?